live from Cleveland, Ohio, running commentary on this week's and the last few weeks. There's been the last 5 Torah portions have been talking about the details of the building materials for the Mishkan, for the tabernacle, the holy temple that the Jewish people created, built in the desert. Why so much attention to the details? What kind of wood? What kind of gold, silver, copper? What kind of sewing materials? Who did it all? Why so much detail? Why is God obsessed with the Mishkan, with the menorah, with the shulchan, with the bread? So much. Isn't God spiritual? Isn't Judaism about more lofty things than the material elements with which they built the Mishkan? This is a question that everybody talks about, all the biblical commentators, and there's so many different answers. Last few years we spoke about various answers right here in this running commentary, and today we'll take a completely different take. It was sparked by a song, or related to a song. It's one of the most popular songs in Israel, known by many, almost everyone. It's called Al-Kfiv Yevih, and it goes something like this, or part of it. It goes something like this in Hebrew. Birchoveinu hatzar, gar nagar echad muzar, hu yoshev lo b'tzrifo, velo oseh davar, yisheno bא לקנות, ואין איש מבקר, כבר שנתיים שהוא כבר אינו מנגר, והוא חלום אחד נושא עוד בלבבו, לבנות כיסא לאליהו שיבוא, על כפיו אותו יביא, לאליהו הנביא, והוא יושב ומחכה לו, כבר שנים חולם הוא שיזכה לו, על סודו שומר ומחכה לו, מתי כבר יגיע היום. So, for those of you who are Israeli, you know the song already. We'll talk about it in a moment. There is an English version that Mordechai ben David, the Jewish superstar, otherwise known in my childhood days as the king of Jewish music, he sings a song that's not an exact translation. It's the same tune, but it has a similar theme and message. And it's something like this. In a village near our home lives a carpenter alone. He's been carving wood for years. Stenders, shelves, and cheers. Daily buyers come and go. But there's one thing they don't know. His thoughts so far away. While waiting for that special day, there's a dream, a vision deep within his heart, that he'll rebuild the Beis HaMikdash part by part, doing mitzvahs, adding precious stones. Our dream, our palace, Yerushalayim, our home. And it goes on like that. So the theme is similar. Words are not exactly translated correctly. But where's the source of the song? The composer of the song, you can look this up online, I did. His name is Yoram Tahar-Lev. He's an Israeli. At the time, maybe 30, 40 years ago, he was an itonai, a reporter for an Israeli military newspaper called Bamachane or Hamachane, the camp. And he went with his camera and his microphone, and he interviewed various people all over Israel. One of them was in Ramla, a city, Ramla, where many immigrants came from different countries. It was primarily an Arab village, not Ramallah, but Ramla. And he interviewed, and he said, this is an interview with one of the men. He's about age 50, and he was sitting, and he spoke about his life in Morocco. And he says, what do you do? He says, I'm a carpenter. He says, tell me more. What's your work these days? He said, Nothing. He says, I haven't carved a piece of wood in years. He says, why not? What happened? Israel's building up, people are coming. Do people not need your work? So he tells them, there's one kind of carpentry that I do, and I'm waiting to do it again. He brings him to the back, to somewhere, opens up a curtain. There's this magnificent, most beautiful, exquisite Kisei shel Eliyahu, the chair of Elijah the prophet. And he says, this is what I make. He says, back in Morocco, I was a carpenter and I made materials for the synagogue, for the Mishkan, for our current temple, or temples. And he says, when I came to Israel, I went around from shul to shul, synagogue to synagogue, asking them to give me work. They told me, when we need something, we'll call on you. I'm sitting here and waiting for 2 years. No one called on me. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for someone to call. And this was a chair, most beautiful chair of Elijah the prophet. Where and when is the chair of Elijah the prophet used? It's used at a bris, at a circumcision. When a child of 8 days old is circumcised, there's the tradition that Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Navi, comes and joins the celebration, the ceremony, and for that we actually put out a chair for him. And this chair, in many circles, is supposed to be an ornate chair. It's very, very beautiful, including in the Sephardic circles. And this is what he made. The story touched Yoram Taharlev so much that this man has a faith and has an idea, and he's waiting for it to materialize. And he's actually not working. I wouldn't say that that's a great lesson in the story, but he was touched by the idea that there was a simple faith in this Jew that he's creating a chair that is for Elijah the prophet. Now, Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Navi, is also Mivaser HaGeula. He is the foreteller. He's the announcer of the redemption. It says that before Mashiach comes, Eliyahu Navi will come and spread the news to the world. So here he connected the two, and he made the song that there's in our village near our home, there's a carpenter. He's been, so in this song, he hasn't done any work for years. Not that he's been doing other work. He's just waiting for this special day for Mashiach to come, for Elijah the prophet to come, for him to give him his chair. So this is the song, a very famous song in Israel, even among those who don't talk about their belief in Mashiach or Elijah the prophet, but it's a very beautiful song. And this is also related to our question that we started with. And there's a epilogue, and then another part to the story I'll share in a moment if I remember. But the point over here and the connection to this story with our Torah portion is that this man had a belief and he brought it home. And so too says the Rebbe that our God, the God of Israel and the God of the world, the God, the creator of everything, doesn't want Judaism and our lifestyle to be separate from who we are and from our day-to-day life. He doesn't want Judaism to be spiritual and our life physical and material. He wants God where we live. We are material human beings. We're made of a body. We also have a soul, or we have a soul which also has a body, whichever way you want to look at it. But the reality is that we live in a physical world, and God wants us to bring godliness, holiness, and to elevate the physical and bring Him into the physical. And that's why God spends 5 Torah portions in the Torah. 5. It's unbelievable. It talks about how when God told Moshe to make the Mishkan in graphic detail, every single piece of material and furniture, and then again when he told it to the Jewish people, and then again when they did it, and then again when they did a review, a recounting. So it's 4 times. Everything's repeated. It's said once and repeated 3 more times. 4 times in detail every time, which is really very uncharacteristic of the Torah. But the Rebbe says that here's a lesson for us, that God wants the details. God wants us to put him into the wood, the silver, the linen, the wool, into the straps of the tefillin, into the leather, into everything in between, into the material. And here, this man demonstrated a little bit of that, where he put his faith into his work, where he put his study into action, where he brought his heaven down to earth. And that's really what God wants us to do, to bring heaven down to earth. And now, just to end, I think it's called the epilogue, another part of the story that the author, Yoram Taharlev, related. Gonna go back on the track here in a minute. There was a snow here yesterday, but now it's wet grass. But we're in the acacia plantation in Cleveland, Ohio. Here to visit my parents, going back in a few days. But anyway, real quickly, the end of the story is as follows. Yoram Taharlev told the story many times to many different groups of people. And in one setting, a woman came over to him and she said, I know where that chair is right now. Because I know about your carpenter and I know where the chair is. That chair of Elijah the prophet. And she said that her friend lived in Ramla, also, and that they lived in the same city where that carpenter lived. And her friend married one of the Arab fishermen. She fell in love and married an Arab fisherman from that city. And she had a baby, a boy. They were looking for a bris because the baby's Jewish, the mother's Jewish, the baby's Jewish. They were looking for a mohel to make a bris. The local mohels were afraid. They didn't want to deal with the concerns that they had, let's just say it that way, and they couldn't find a mohel. So she says her friend's father went to Kfar Chabad, the Chabad village in Israel, and over there a mohel said, sure, I'll do it. And he came to Ramla and he said, you know what, you have a custom to have a kisei shel Eliyahu, a chair for Elijah the prophet. Perhaps you have one, you can find one somewhere in the city. And this was the one they found. So they found this one, and the carpenter was very happy to use his chair for the purpose for which it was created. And then, in an exchange, after the bris was performed between the rabbi, or the mohel, and the carpenter actually gave the chair to this rabbi to use and to bring to Kfar Chabad and to use in his future brises, future circumcisions. So Yoram Taharlev says this story. He says he didn't verify it, he didn't look for it afterwards, but this is what he was told. That's what he's sharing with the world. And that's what I'm sharing with you now. That's the story for today, to bring heaven down to earth in the material. And our job is to make a wasteland or the wilderness into a home for God. God bless you all. Take care.